Let's dive into this. Prince Harry versus the Sun lawsuit. A judge even called it a clash of two well-recourse armies. That sounds pretty intense.
Oh, yeah. This one is huge. And the most interesting part for me is that Harry's not after money. He says he just wants accountability.
Accountability, huh?
Okay.
But what does that actually mean in this case? What is it that he wants to get out of all this?
That's a good question. I think he's looking for a few things from the Sun, like admitting they did wrong, maybe changing the way they do things, and maybe even apologizing for specific stuff where they really mess with his privacy.
So this is bigger than just winning in court. It's about how the whole media works, right?
Exactly. And this isn't even the first time the Sun's publisher, News Group Newspapers, has been in trouble for this kind of thing. Remember the whole News of the World scandal?
Yeah.
Well, they had to shut down that paper because they admitted to doing similar stuff. They even paid out like £1 billion to make things right.
Wow, £1 billion. So knowing all that, why is Harry even bothering with this? It's got to be a tough fight.
It seems like he really wants to show everyone that this unethical behavior is a pattern for them. His lawsuit focuses on 30 articles they published between 1996 and 2011. He claims all that information was dug up illegally.
Wait, 1996? That's going way back. What kind of illegal stuff are we talking about here?
Well, there's the obvious phone hacking, which was a big part of the News of the World mess. But it goes beyond that. Harry's team is saying they did stuff like blagging, that's tricking phone companies into giving up private info and even paying off shady sources for dirt on people.
This sounds pretty serious. Are there any examples of articles where they might have used these tactics?
There's one that really stands out from 2005. It was about his girlfriend back then, Chelsea Davy. The lawsuit claims that there's just no way the Sun could have known all those personal details unless they got them illegally.
Yeah, that would be really upsetting. It's a huge invasion of privacy. But what's the Sun saying about all this? They can't just be admitting to everything, can they?
No, they're denying any wrongdoing at the Sun. Their main argument is that Harry waited too long to sue them. They're saying his claims are time-barred, basically saying too much time has passed for him to sue under UK law.
So it's a legal tactic as much as anything else. But what about the content of those articles? How do they explain getting that information?
They're saying they're going to go through each article one by one and challenge what Harry is saying. They'll argue that they got the info legally, either from reliable sources or by using methods that were okay back then.
Okay, so it's going to be a point-by-point fight. But I have to ask, is this all about individual journalists, or is there something bigger at play here?
That's where it gets really interesting. See, Harry's team isn't just going after reporters. They're saying there was a cover-up at the highest levels of News Group newspapers. They're claiming that the top bosses knew about these illegal practices and even tried to destroy evidence back in 2011 when the News of the World scandal broke.
Whoa, a cover-up. That's a serious accusation. Are there any specific people named in connection with this alleged cover-up?
Yes, and they're big names. People like Rebecca Brooks, she's the CEO of News Group Newspapers right now, and Will Levis, who was a top exec there, and now he runs the Washington Post.
Wow, that's a lot to take in. So if NGN loses, what could happen? Could the Sun actually go down because of this?
It's hard to say for sure, but the impact could be huge. They could get a bad reputation, get hit with huge fines, and even face criminal charges for anyone involved in the cover-up. It could also encourage other people who think they were victims of this kind of stuff to speak up and sue too.
And this is all happening as we're moving deeper into the digital age where privacy seems to be shrinking every day.
You've hit on something really important. This case isn't just about Prince Harry and the Sun. It's about how we define privacy in the digital age. If Harry wins, it could change the whole media landscape. Publications might have to be a lot more careful about how they get their information.
It's a fascinating and complicated case, and it brings up a lot of questions about how we balance freedom of the press with the right to privacy. But we've only scratched the surface. In the next part of our deep dive, let's look closer at some of the specific things Harry is claiming, starting with that 2005 article about his relationship with Chelsea Davy.
Yeah, that article about Chelsea Davy really shows why Harry's so upset about all of this. I mean, imagine being young and in love and having all these personal details about your relationship splashed all over the tabloids.
It would be awful. It's one thing to be in the public eye, but having your private life on the front page like that, that's got to feel like a huge invasion.
Yes.
To think they might have used illegal methods to get it makes it even worse.
Exactly. And this is where this whole blagging thing comes in. It sounds kind of funny, but it can have serious consequences.
Yeah, you mentioned it before, but I'm still not totally clear on how it works. Could you explain it a bit more for me and for our listeners?
Sure. So picture this. Someone calls up your phone company, pretending to be you, or someone who's allowed to access your account. They use all these sneaky tricks to convince the operator to give them sensitive info,
Hmm.
like your call logs, itemized bills, even your voicemail password.
So they can basically get into your personal communications without actually hacking your phone.
Exactly. And that's why these cover-up accusations against NGN are so important.
Yeah.
Harry's team is saying that the executives didn't just know about this illegal stuff, they actually tried to get rid of all the evidence.
Wait, they're saying NGN intentionally destroyed evidence? How could they get away with that?
Well, that's what the courts will have to decide. Harry's lawyers claim that NGN went on a deleting spree back in 2011 when that whole News of the World phone hacking thing blew up. They got rid of tons of emails and other stuff that could have been used against them.
So it was like a massive digital bonfire to get rid of anything that could incriminate them? I can see how that would make it almost impossible to prove anything.
Absolutely. Yeah. But on the other hand, if they can prove that NGN deleted those records, it would be a huge blow to their case.
It's like a legal thriller. There might be evidence out there, but it's buried somewhere. What's NGN's response to all this?
Well, as you can imagine, they're fighting back hard. They're saying these accusations are totally baseless and wrong. They're planning to bring in all sorts of witnesses like tech experts and senior staff to try and debunk these claims.
So it's basically a he said, she said situation. But even if Harry can prove they used illegal methods, wouldn't NGN still have that time-barred argument?
You're right, that's a big obstacle for Harry's team. They need to convince the judge that there were good reasons why Harry waited so long to sue.
What kind of reasons could they possibly give? I mean, we're talking about things that happened decades ago.
They could argue that Harry didn't know the full extent of what was going on until recently, or that NGN deliberately hid their activities so Harry couldn't sue them sooner.
So they're trying to make it look like NGN was actively trying to keep Harry in the dark, but is that enough to get around the legal time limits?
It's going to be tough. UK courts are usually pretty strict about those time limits.
Yeah.
But if Harry's team can come up with some really strong evidence of a cover-up, it might be enough to persuade the judge.
So proving that cover-up is crucial for Harry. It could make or break his entire case. But let's step back for a moment and think about the bigger picture.
You mean the potential impact on British journalism?
Exactly. This whole trial is being watched closely, not just in the UK, but around the world. If Harry wins, could this change the way tabloids do business?
It could definitely shake things up. A win for Harry would be a huge victory for privacy rights and could force publications to rethink their methods. We might even see stricter regulations and more scrutiny of tabloid journalism as a whole.
But what if NGN wins? What kind of message would that send?
That's a good question. A win for NGN might embolden some publications to keep pushing the limits of what's acceptable. It could also discourage other victims of privacy violations from coming forward.
So the stakes are really high, not just for Prince Harry and the Sun, but for the future of media ethics and accountability. It feels like we're at a turning point, a defining moment for how we view privacy in the digital age.
And it's not just about the legal outcome either. This is playing out in the court of public opinion, too.
Right. People have such strong opinions about Prince Harry, the royal family, and the tabloids. This whole thing must be a PR nightmare for everyone involved.
Exactly. Public opinion is split right down the middle. Some people see Harry as this brave whistleblower taking on a corrupt system, while others think he's just airing dirty laundry and hurting the reputation of the monarchy.
It's fascinating to see how this case is tapping into all these bigger cultural debates about the role of the media, the power of celebrities, and the right to privacy in a world where information is so easy to get.
And we can't forget that no matter who wins or loses in court, this case has already started a much-needed discussion about the relationship between the press and the people they cover, which can be pretty shady sometimes.
It's a reminder that even with social media and instant news, we can't forget that there are real people behind these stories. Their lives are being affected by all of this.
Well said. And this brings us to another layer in all of this, the role of technology.
Ah, yes. The digital age. We talked about those deleted emails, but in what other ways is technology affecting this legal battle?
Oh, it's everywhere. Think about it. The alleged cover-up involves deleted digital records. Trying to prove or disprove these claims is a whole new level of complicated. Digital forensics is going to be super important in this case.
I can only imagine trying to recover data from old hard drives, tracking down deleted emails, piecing together a digital trail from years ago. It sounds like something out of a spy movie.
It kind of is. And it brings up some important questions about data security, the right to be forgotten, and the legal challenges of holding powerful organizations accountable in the digital world. This case could set a precedent for how we handle these issues in the future.
It's crazy to think about how much of our lives are documented online now. Every email, every text message, every photo we post, it's all out there somewhere. And this case just highlights how vulnerable that data can be.
It is a bit unsettling, isn't it?
Hmm.
It makes you think, in this day and age where so much of our lives is online, how can we make sure our privacy is protected?
That's the million-dollar question. But for now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about how this whole ordeal has affected Prince Harry personally. He's been pretty open about how these alleged intrusions have taken a toll on him emotionally.
Yeah, it can't be easy to always feel like you're under a microscope. Like every move you make is being watched and analyzed.
He's talked about the fear of always being followed, the anxiety of knowing someone might be listening to his private conversations, and how it's messed with his relationships. It seems like this lawsuit is his way of trying to take back some control of his own story.
Right, it's like he's pushing back against feeling powerless. It's got to be a tough decision, though, because this trial is bringing all that attention right back on him, putting his personal life back in the spotlight.
Yeah. It's a risky move, for sure. But it seems like Harry's reached a point where he's willing to go through that if it means exposing what he sees as a huge problem with tabloids.
And it's not just about him anymore. He's become a symbol for this bigger fight for privacy in a world that feels more and more intrusive every day.
Exactly. If he wins, it could give other people who feel like their privacy has been violated the courage to speak up.
Yeah.
It could change the power dynamic and make these media companies think twice before using these shady tactics to get a story.
It's almost like he's taking a stand for everyone who's ever felt used or misrepresented by the press. But let's be real, winning this case is a long shot.
I know it won't be easy. NGN has a ton of money, and they've fought these kinds of lawsuits many times before. And even if he does win, who knows what the long-term impact will be.
That's the big question, isn't it? What happens after the verdict?
Yeah.
Will this actually change how the media operates, or will it just fade away?
It's hard to say, but I think regardless of the outcome, this whole thing has already started a conversation that we need to have about the role of the media, the limits of press freedom, and how important it is to protect people's privacy in the digital age.
That's a great point, and I think it's something our listeners should think about too. How do you feel about the balance between the public's right to know and an individual's right to privacy? Where do you draw the line?
That's a complex issue with no easy answers. But we can all play a part in making the media landscape more ethical and responsible by being aware of the challenges demanding transparency from powerful people and thinking critically about the information we're consuming.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Prince Harry versus the Sun case. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on it and keep you updated on everything that happens. Until then, stay curious and keep asking those tough questions.